Suffering and success should not be synonymous, and there is a different way to do it. Time and energy are your two greatest assets as a leader. And if you are burned out and never have any time, well, why would you expect your car to keep running down the road, another 20 miles without any gas in the tank? So why do we expect that of ourselves? It takes a lot more strength to ask for help than it does to just silently suffer. Being open to being vulnerable takes a lot of strength. To have that support in place, that will actually really give you the lift, the elevation to thrive and really see those changes that you want to see in your life.
Hey, Tim Wolf here. I got a deep question for you. Something to think about. What would your life look like if you could stop managing tasks and start truly leading your vision? If you could spend more time doing the work that lights you up instead of getting buried in endless to-dos? I mean, here's the truth. Most high achievers aren't working harder than you. They've just learned how to offload the right things so they can focus on what actually moves the needle and lights them up. Today, I'm sitting down with Hayden Orme, founder of Handled by Hayden Co, a business optimization expert and a former executive assistant to the CEO of a Fortune 5 company. Hayden has spent years behind the scenes helping top leaders eliminate inefficiencies, protect their time, and create sustainable success without burnout. And she did that because she experienced burnout. And so in this conversation, we'll explore the real difference between a virtual assistant and an executive assistant and why most people get this wrong. Why delegating isn't about losing control, it's about gaining freedom. And how truly elite assistants manage up to anticipate your needs before you even know them. Before we dive in, make sure to connect with me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube at @RealTimWolf. And let me know in the comments if you could instantly remove one thing from your plate forever. What would it be? Let's dive into today's conversation. Welcome to Lumina Vanguard. This is the show for the luminaries of the world, those people who are using their gifts to build transformational communities and innovations that change the world. Together, let's light the way to the future. I'm excited to have Hayden Orme, right?
Orme.
Yeah. Hayden Orme on a podcast today. We've been involved in a couple of networking groups together, and she's the founder of Handled by Hayden. And I'm excited to talk to her a lot about her experience, what she's done as support for top executives. And I know that for everybody in this realm of trying to do big things in the world, trying to, change the world, make an impact, having a team at your side and support at your side is so important and just transforms the way that you can just deliver on your mission in the world. And so really excited to dive into some of that with you today, Hayden. But I'll let you kind of tell a little bit about your story yourself, kind of what brought you to where you are today, and let our listeners get to know you.
Yeah, well, thanks, Tim. It's great to be here. So I founded Handled by Hayden Company in 2020, early 2020. So launching a business right on the heels of COVID was a little challenging, but actually the silver lining of COVID, I think, for so many of us was that it really normalized remote work, and that is my whole business is remote. So Handled by Hayden Company is a business optimization and elevation firm. So we work with solopreneurs up to corporate leaders alike, and we provide them with really top-notch, high-caliber, seasoned executive assistants. And that can be either part-time, a couple hours a week with a remote retainer contract, or we also do up to dedicated full-time and anything in between. So we can do part-time, and also we do work with larger companies to recruit and place for direct hires. So I was in corporate actually as an executive assistant to, at the time, the chairman and CEO of the McKesson Corporation, which was a Fortune 5 company. And he was the highest paid CEO in the United States. So you can probably imagine that there was, it was a very demanding job and schedule. Yeah. And I had been doing that probably for close to 14 years in supporting various C-suite executives. And I also have always had a passion for the sea and sailing. And so I also have my Master Merchant Mariner captain's license. Kind of a prior life, I worked on boats and I worked to deliver boats. And so getting my captain's license was a personal goal of mine. And so while that's more of a hobby passion now, you can see that in my branding, sailing is sort of authentically shining through. So I launched Handle by Hayden, as I said, in 2020, and I really decided that when I left corporate, I went through a very sort of real detox, if you will. And I realized, I took a few months off, and I realized that I really wanted to work for myself, but I wasn't entirely clear on what that looked like yet. And kind of going through this detox, going 1,000 miles an hour for over a decade and suddenly coming to a screeching halt was very jarring. And I went through panic attacks and night sweats and just a lot of anxiety. And it took several months for that to sort of dissipate and for me to actually find my baseline again. And I realized that I had been operating in chronic burnout for years, well over a decade, and how damaging that was to not just my physical well-being, but my mental and emotional. And so Handled by Hayden and Company we're really on a mission to help shift the paradigm that has been so normalized in our society around almost celebrating burnout. Like, you can do it all, and if you can, that should be a badge of honor in a way, instead of actually acknowledging that every leader is a human being with a life, and at least they're trying to have a life, right? That's the goal. So, really shift that paradigm that suffering and success should not be synonymous, and there is a different way to do it. And I am a firm believer that, especially in companies, change starts at the top. So if we can support our leaders in finding sustainable, what I call holistic success, to really lead from a place of balance and alignment, where they can have the right support in place, which is paramount to achieving that and having that in a sort of a sustainable way, then it will have a ripple effect through organizations, and hopefully a society will start to, and I think it is shifting a little, but really if everyone can start to embrace that having balance in your life is really crucial to satisfaction, joy, right? And having that balance with a really incredible executive assistant as your strategic partner and support allows you to optimize your time as a leader and stay in your focus zone, your zone of genius, if you will, a common theme. And there's actually, I just wrote a blog article that we'll publish in February, actually, about how investing in an executive assistant is a cost savings initiative with the opportunity cost and everything. So that's kind of what we do, really trying to match leaders with the right support to help them optimize their time, not just grow their business, but be happier and healthier holistically as well.
Yeah. I'm interested to think, I know, like, kind of in my own personal life, it's like there's so many things that, whether it's personal related, business related, hobbies related, like so much comes across your plate. And I know sometimes it can feel hard to just even get your assistant into your frame of mind, right? Mm-hmm. So what would you say as a couple good ways that you can sort of lean into the support really effectively and create an environment, that you can even be supported?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'm going to back up a step further and actually differentiate some sort of two key terms that are thrown around a lot: virtual assistant versus executive assistant. Yeah. And so that is kind of integral into my answer to your question.
Fair enough,
Both have a place. Virtual assistants tend to not necessarily have that corporate experience supporting C-suite executives. They are really good for maybe checking off a to-do list, tasks, just very task-oriented, right? Not involving a lot of out-of-the-box creative thinking or a manage-up approach. It's more receiving delegation and executing on that. An executive assistant and the level at which we hire, they've had, a career supporting executives, and they have experience in the C-suite. So to even work For me, you need a minimum of 7 years experience and a minimum of 4 years in the C-suite. And at that level of executive assistance, there is sort of baked into the recipe a manage up approach that has evolved over the assistant's career, and it's just how you operate at that level. So proactive, staying 10 steps ahead at all times instead of waiting for things to do, right? They're making recommendations, they're looking at the big picture while also kind of granular and reverse engineering how to get things done and how to implement and execute on the visions of their leader. Right. So we often start working with clients, and given that we work with solopreneurs, small business owners, small businesses, all the way up to large companies, probably at least half of our clients have never worked with an assistant before. And so it can be it's very vulnerable opening your business up to let someone in, right? It's and a little scary, because even if you recognize you're stuck in the doer role, you could even be on the verge of burnout, if not burned out. It's hard to let go of that control and that misconception, but it comes with a comfort zone, like, if only I can do it right. Only I'm going to do it the way I like it. So depending on the individual, there's different approaches to working with different personalities. But we actually have a very curated and specific onboarding process for our clients, and are very comfortable with any personality, any work style, because that's just goes with the territory. Yeah. But a common misconception is, I'm not ready yet because I have to get everything in place, right? I have to have all my SOPs written. I have to have everything organized in my Google Drive, and that's actually not the case at all. So really, as long as you're willing to and open to receive suggestions and feedback and actually let go of some things and make those changes to see some different results, then we really guide you every step of the way. We provide you with a document that's how to optimize your time with your executive assistant, and we'll walk you through it. And communication is really paramount. Number one, open communication. There's something you want your executive assistant to be doing, let them know. We will ask questions, and we're pretty good at mind reading, but we are not mind readers. We're not going to get the hints every time. I say communication first and foremost. As long as you're willing to communicate authentically with your assistant, they'll really guide you through, hey, this is what I need. Help me help you. I'm seeing that you're spending a lot of time in your inbox every day. I'd like to help manage your inbox, but I'm going to need access. If you don't know how to give me access, let's hop on a call. We'll screen share. I'll walk you through it. So really having that kind of ties into the manage up approach, where once you have that consistency of time and communication with someone and can really establish that trust, it becomes easier and easier and easier. And oftentimes what happens is someone might start with a 5-hour-a-week retainer, and then 2 months later they're saying, hey, can we increase to 8 or 10 hours a week? Because now I don't know what I did without this person before, and there's so much that they can take off my plate. So it's really it's a mindset. If you can at least be open and willing to let go of some things and make some changes and receive recommendations, then we can walk you through.
Yeah, I think I have an idea, but I'd love to just kind of get it, straight from you. What do you mean by manage up approach?
Yes, instead of, for example, if you have some meetings coming up this week, instead of getting on the meeting and realizing, oh shoot, had a document I needed printed for this meeting, I didn't ask my assistant, I'm really stressed. I keep having to follow up with my assistant to see if something's been done. With the executive assistant approach, they are 10 steps ahead. So they're scrubbing your calendar each week and month to make sure you don't have any double bookings. They're letting you know if you do. They're making executive decisions based on your preferences. So you don't even have to take up the mental energy in reviewing things and delegating. They are making recommendations, asking you. They're going to just say, your document has been sent to your printer for a 3:00 meeting. I scheduled your lunch reservation. I moved the conflict you had next week. I've taken care of X, Y, and Z, right? So they're taking care of things, and they ask questions when need be. But for the most part, it's that onboarding and kind of assimilation into your business and your life has happened, then they can really take care of a lot of things with a lot of autonomy.
Gotcha. Yeah. I'm sure you talked a little bit about sort of releasing control, and I'm sure you've probably dealt with that a lot with various clients. And I know for people who are in this method of really having a big vision, one that they're really attached to. I think sometimes when you have a mission-driven business, it's like, everything somehow matters more, not less, And so how have you helped people kind of sort of step into a place where they either can release control or are they just not ready if they can't do that?
Yeah, it depends on the individual. And like I said, some people are just, hey, take the wheel. I don't even want to know. I just get it off my plate. I don't even want to think about it ever again. And then there's others that, maybe we're perfectionists. Maybe we want the help, but we have challenges accepting help. And I say probably on a weekly basis, being a leader will force you to work on yourself whether you want to or not. And so examining, there's some psychology involved here. What is getting in the way of relinquishing some control to accept that support so you can actually level up? And I do provide some strategic consulting and some coaching for our clients. So I have a process called the Empowered Leader Business Navigator. And so it's a couple-hour session that I'll do with clients. And this can often be the first step in our client journey, but it's by no means required. Some people are just ready to start with their executive assistant. But oftentimes clients will come to me and they're really burned out, or they're just drowning, or they're in a pretty good place, but they're really looking to level up and they have the vision, but they're not sure how to take it down to synthesize it into actionable steps to get there. So I take them through a process to kind of from the top down evaluate, what's that magic wand goal? If time and money were no object, where do you want to be on a daily basis in your business and your life, right? Because we're treating you as the person that shows up to lead your company every day. So your preferences and what brings you joy and satisfaction, we want to integrate that. And then the bottom up, what's the infrastructure of your business look like? Do you have systems in place? Do you have too many systems in place? Is there a lot of chaos behind the scenes? I use this example a lot. We had one person join our client roster several years ago, and she had 7 different email addresses, webmail addresses, and it was utter chaos. She said clients they say they don't know which email they're going to be hearing from. I never know which email to check. So while there were other things at play, there was just that chaos behind the scenes that was costing her time, money, peace of mind, reputation. Optics are important for building client trust and brand trust. So it's really about how can we set you up for success with the right support so you're not actually the one doing everything. So after that initial session, 2 hours, I delivered the client with a report, and it's very robust. It's, summary of everything, my findings, summary of goals, and then I reverse engineer a very prescriptive list of recommendations to get them where they want to go in triage order. So I can then hand over this report to the executive assistant with whom they're working, and that helps to kind of guide the ship towards the right direction. Everyone can be aligned. We can even have regular calls. Some clients choose to do a quarterly check-in call with me to just kind of recalibrate, make sure they're on track, and we collaboratively support our clients. So, I, on a bi-weekly basis, have check-ins with the executive assistant. So that is a helpful step, because I think a lot of times for people who have a hard time relinquishing control, it's because there's some unknown and there's some fear. So if there's a very specific plan, that can help to at least know what's happening, kind of what's coming down the pipeline. And then, I'm a big proponent of behind every successful leader, what's that saying? There's several other successful leaders. So everyone who's really successful and happy has help, right? It's not just an executive assistant. Maybe you have a coach, maybe you have multiple coaches, maybe you have a therapist, right? So there's that self-growth work, because typically if a company is not doing well, there's a lot of factors, but the bottleneck is typically in the leadership suite.
Yeah, I say something similar. You say like being an entrepreneur is like shining a magnifying glass on all the things that you need to fix in your life. But yeah, for sure. So yeah, kind of, switching gears a little bit here. I mean, you've talked a little bit about burnout, about your own burnout that you kind of didn't even realize until you actually stopped,
Yeah.
So yeah, what is that, how can people sort of start to take steps in order to, manage that burnout or even recognize it when it's happening?
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of signs. One of them is just kind of take a 10-second break and think, when was the last time I stopped and took a break and rested? If you can't remember, just that is an indication that you are probably heading towards chronic overwhelm and burnout if you're not already in it. Then there's the brain fog, just fatigue, anxiety, aches and pains. I mean, there are a lot of physical manifestations of burnout as well, but being unhappy and just chronically overwhelmed and stressed is no way to live. And I know because I've been there and I never recommend things to our clients that I haven't been through or done myself. And so I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Instead of, there's sort of a negative connotation to how it's kind of the flip side of as a society, we sort of celebrate burnout because look at everything you're achieving and you're doing it all, right? It's kind of a badge of honor. On the flip side, we have a negative association with rest and taking breaks, and we kind of have this spin on it like, you'll say, oh, I didn't do anything. I didn't get anything done yesterday, instead of flipping it and saying, I chose to rest and pause so I could return with renewed focus today. Maybe I overslept this weekend and I didn't get to the gym. Well, how about I took the rest my body really needed and I supported myself in doing so? And all of those just little mindset shifts can really help with starting to sort of recalibrate yourself internally with associating rest and recovery as a positive thing. And it's an investment in yourself, your life, and your business. It's just as important to rest. It's incredibly important to rest. It's kind of a power move because then you're showing up for your business from a place of more abundance and energy. Time and energy are your two greatest assets as a leader. And if you are burned out and never have any time, well, why would you expect your car to keep running down the road, another 20 miles without any gas in the tank? So why do we expect that of ourselves? So making those intentional shifts, and an executive assistant is really helpful with that. And I use this example a lot. We had a client who was growing a company, and I think he had about 15 employees. And he said, I'm so drained. I mean, he was really at his wit's end. By the time he came to us, he was in chronic burnout. And he said, I have 2 children, a wife, pets. I maybe see them for dinner once or twice a week. I'll say goodnight quickly because I'm working late. And then after they go to bed, I get back on the computer, and I was hearing nothing in his explanation about his time that incorporated fun or anything that sort of fed his, filled his cup. And so the team, his executive assistant, got to say to him, well, we're going to fix this. So first of all, I'm taking all these things off your plate that will give you back time. But also, what are some things that you used to do for fun? And he said, I love mountain biking, but there's no way I can mountain bike because then I'm going to work even later. So instead of saying, all right, well, you're going to have to work 2 hours later so you can go mountain biking, right? We took all these things off his plate. So his time was more focused on what only he could do. That's the goal. Optimize your time so you're doing the things that only you can do. Your mental and emotional state is more decluttered because it's not sort of clogged with, oh my gosh, I have 1,010 things to do every minute, right? You have a trusted partner taking care of that. And then we built in 2 slots a week for him to go mountain biking in the morning. And so that really just shifted everything because that was some intentional rest time for him to fill his cup. He was showing up for work from a place of better abundance and just happiness. He was getting some time with his family in the evenings, what a good concept. And the business was growing. So it's really, I can't emphasize enough, it's really about kind of that time optimization with that partnership of an executive assistant, because then when you're really able to stay in your zone of genius and your time is optimized, you have bought back. Dan Martell talks about, buying back your time.
Right.
And that's just such a good way of putting it, because it's really what you're doing. You're investing in a cost reduction investment activity, right? You have someone to take care of things. Your time is optimized. You're focused on revenue generating activities. So the byproduct is it's helping your bottom line. But then you have that space to, as long as you intentionally and schedule yourself for rest. And then that really helps to shift things. I know for me personally, I think those of us that have that corporate conditioning too, it's harder. It can be harder. I won't say a blanket statement, but it can be harder to say, I'm taking these days off to rest, relax, and give my brain a break, instead of, I did nothing. I just lay on the couch and watched TV, or I just, I read 2 books. I didn't get anything done, right? So it's that mindset. But I actually took some time off over the holidays once all the house guests left, the family left, right? I actually took 3 days and had a little staycation with my partner. We Netflix and chilled, binge watched a show, cooked some meals, and just really relaxed. And I was aware that I was having some moments of, I have, there's laundry to do, there's this to do, there's those things going on in your head, but where is that coming from? Who's saying I should be doing that? I had to very intentionally sort of work through a few of those moments where this is important too. And I can't remember the last time I just took 3 days, right? And the holidays are a great time to do that, because a lot of people take time off. But I came back to work feeling so much better. I had some creative ideas. I was inspired. And I took a week off, but 3 days of those were just really like trying to focus on rest. And so that's kind of like you're making a deposit in the bank to rest and then come back from a place of greater clarity and creativity and energy. And just in a few weeks, being back, I'm already seeing that benefit from my energy shifting, having taken rest.
Yeah. How do you, is there like some amount of time that you've seen that works best, or that you recommend, or just that you've seen works well with the executives that you work with? Like how often?
I think it really depends on the person. Some people I'm not a huge fan of the introvert extrovert labels, because I think there's so many different variations, shades of those, but I am more of an extroverted introvert. So while I love being around people and engaging and meeting new people and developing relationships, I will hit a point at which it will feel really draining and exhausting, and I'll need to have a little break. Zoom fatigue, while Zoom is such an incredible tool we have for our businesses, it also is exhausting sometimes. So I would say just pay attention and know your own temperament. And if you recognize that, okay, I really hit a wall after 2 days of calls on Zoom, and honor that and maybe structure your week differently. So for example, when I was really building my business in the first few years, I had calls all day, every day. And then I was realizing come Friday, I felt like I'd been hit by a bus, and I was thinking, okay, well, this isn't working for me, and it's not going to support my goal in sustainably growing my business. So I'd rather grow a little more slowly and deliberately, and really, we work very hard to model what we try to help our clients achieve. So I structure my week where I pack in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are my call days, and then Monday, Friday are my to-do days or business development days, or what have you, whatever initiative I'm working on. And I found that works so much better for me. I have Monday to sort of ease into the week, work on creative things, and then Friday is kind of get caught up at the end of the week. So I would say just really pay attention to what you need. And it doesn't have to be, take a vacation every quarter for a week, right? It can just be how you structure your week to create that space to honor how you do your best work.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I've kind of structured mine to where Mondays is all like team or, client check-in calls. And then Thursdays is a day of calls. It's typically more networking outreach, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I get to stay in those zones of
Yeah.
as well as the meetings, and then I try to limit calls every other day.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah,
that's a great
that's
way
cool.
when you said zones like that.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Because also, if you're jumping from thing to thing all the time, if you're doing a million things at once, you're not doing any of them really well. So when you
right,
can
right.
focus and have that space to stay in the zone that you're in, whether it's
Yeah, the
calls or
energy of it.
yeah, creative content development or
Right.
business, whatever it is,
Yeah.
it
I
makes
think
a
that's one of the
huge difference.
biggest things for creative people and the visionaries who are trying to build something big. It's like you need that time to do deep work, and it's not
Absolutely.
like, I've heard it said a few different ways, like manager time versus maker time and things like that. But there really is like you need space to be able to go really, really deep on whatever you're doing in order to create. And I mean, even if you have calls late in the day, it's like the whole day you're like, am I ready for that call? And it's such a big energy shift from just making those small tweaks. And I've felt that, so I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I know for me personally, at least, if I'm writing, and I enjoy writing, but it takes me at least a good hour to sort of drop into, okay, I'm in the zone and writing now, not sort of, procrastinating and putzing or trying to focus. So if you have a time block of an hour to do writing in the middle of a day of calls, like know that for me, that wouldn't work. Maybe, calls in the morning and then the rest of the day to write or something like that. So
Yeah,
honoring
I love that.
those zones.
Yeah, I had a friend who was a copywriter, and anytime he wanted to go into writing mode, he would literally put on what he called his copy hat, and it was a hat that he would literally like put on and just like drop him into that state so that he could, I guess just get to it quicker, right? When he
Yeah,
was, I
that's
don't know what you're
great.
talking, just reminded me of that kind of. There's definitely things like that can help you get into those states. with me,
Absolutely.
too.
Yeah, like triggers to help you focus. So for me personally, so I come down into my office. I work from home, so my office is downstairs in a finished basement. I have windows, but I come down in the morning, kind of put my tea down here. I get my essential oil diffuser going. I turn the lights on and kind of get my space ready. And then when I come in and I can sit down and start to work, I'm kind of set up. You can see I have my furry office assistant there. She usually sleeps on the job.
She wants to be on the podcast.
Kind of for me, it's sort of a ritual. The scent in my office, and it's just sort of a peaceful, calming scent, and the lights are on, and the little in the winter the space heater's going, the space is warm. So just those little things, and whether it's a hat, a scent, lighting, blanket you like to be under, whatever it is, it's helpful to any little thing you can do to support yourself is so important.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of where, I mean, even with what you do with executive assistants, it's like, if they can create that ritual sense of everything so that you can really stay in that performance mode. I feel like that's so impactful. So a ritual is such a good word for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
And they will hold you accountable too. I mean, a lot of leaders, I'm guilty of this as well. We have a proclivity for saying yes to too many things. And then all of a sudden, oh my goodness, we're completely booked up and we have no time to breathe. So they are also your master gatekeeper, right? So they're protective of your time and they will filter and triage requests. So you might say, sure, I'll meet with all these people this week. Well, okay, these 2 calls actually aren't time sensitive, so we're going to schedule those for next week because you can't be back to back all day and not have time for a bio break or to eat or drink water, right? So they will remind you and pad in those breaks, even if it's 15 minutes to just, run to the bathroom, refill your water, get a snack, stretch, move a little. Things that we tend to not always take care of for ourselves. And that kind of ties into the manage up approach a little. Tim, you may be able to go 12 hours back to back without a bio break and on Zoom all day, but I'm not going to let you do that because it's important that you also take care of yourself.
I don't think I've ever done 12 hours, but I've done days where it was a long
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, most Mondays are not quite there, but there are a couple breaks in the day, but
Yeah.
I'm usually on pretty much all day. But you know what? I've always thought like, all right, I do it all in one day and I don't have to be in that the rest of the week.
That's great that sort of front load your week that way.
Yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, I guess I'd love to hear a little more about with you coming from this background of, working with C-suites, the Fortune 5 company, and, 13, I think you said 13 years of experience that you had
roughly.
doing that. What were some of like the biggest sort of like to-dos and not to-dos that you learned that you kind of try to take forward and teach to anyone you're helping?
Yeah, great question. First and foremost, discretion and professionalism, confidentiality. I mean, at that level, that just goes with the territory, and that's something that we integrate into Handled by Hayden. A lot of times people will say, so this person's going to have access to my email, and they will if you grant that to them. But at this level, really having eyes and ears into all or most areas of your life and business just goes with the territory, and it has an incredible positive impact on how well they can support you, how thoroughly they can support you when your assistant is well informed about what's going on and knows you have a doctor's appointment, or knows you're expecting a baby any day, or they can really make more informed choices and decisions for you and with you. So that is important, of course. Communication and relationship building. I mean, as a business owner, relationships are so important. But I talk a lot, we operate internally, and I talk to clients about this too. The impeccability agreement, which is an approach to communicating. And it's really something that I found to be incredibly helpful in my career and as a leader. Basically, it preempts any confusion and manages expectations. So it reduces the anxiety of the person depending on you. So you can say it's how you make a request and how you receive a request. So I would like for you, Tim, specifically to write a paper on this topic. I'd like the first draft in my inbox by noon Eastern time on Friday. And then you, as the receiver, say, I acknowledge that, I can make that deadline, and you let me know 24 hours ahead of time if there's any changes to that deadline and why. And so there's just a clarity of communication, and brevity but effective communication is important. And there is naturally, when you're supporting someone in all areas of their life, you also have insight and empathy into how they're doing, right? Did they just come off a crazy 3 weeks of international travel? Why would I have them start calls back to back at, 7 a.m. all day? No, I'm going to make sure they start at 11 a.m. I'm going to make sure they have the morning blocked. It's in your best interest as well to ensure that they are taken care of and they have what they need, and you're also supporting how they work best, kind of what we talked about. Front loading your week, I have Mondays and Fridays for my work. So how they work best and protecting that will not only help you and your support relationship with them, but it has a ripple effect through their life and the business as well. So those are just a few of many things that I think are really important, and that a really seasoned executive assistant brings with them after, so many years in the C-suite.
As a person who's been an assistant and works with, an executive assistant and works with a lot of them, what would you say is the quality of a leader that you admire most?
I would say, well, there's kind of two, but they go hand in hand. One is transparency. And so if you have an executive assistant, you probably trust them. I hope you trust them. And having that, it kind of synthesizes down again to communication, effective communication. You are transparent with them, you are upfront about them, you communicate with them so they are as well equipped as they can be to support you. You're helping them help you. It makes their job a little easier. And appreciation. So I recognize that typically corporate executive assistants don't always, I think they're one of the most underappreciated positions in a company. Rely on them absolutely for everything, and as does the organization, their team, other executives, the ability to reach them or get on their calendar, everything filters through the executive assistant. They're the master gatekeeper. And it depends on the person, but oftentimes, corporate at that level, you're working 365 days a year, and you're on call 24/7. And it can feel a little bit like no one's really noticing how hard you work sometimes. So expressing appreciation, expressing gratitude, and knowing how that person feels appreciated is very important. So one of our core values is appreciation here at Handled by Hayden. And whenever I onboard a new employee, they fill out a form like love languages. We ask, what are your appreciation languages? How do you feel most appreciated? What are your preferences? What's your favorite color? All of that. So when there's a win or a small celebration or a birthday or an anniversary or something, we have a crew member who's getting married in a few weeks. We want to pull that form and see how they feel most appreciated. So we can either send them something that resonates for them that's personal, or say, all right, this person really likes words of affirmation, so I'm going to make sure I thank them and recognize a job really well done from time to time instead of just taking it for granted.
I love that. That's amazing. Appreciation, man, so powerful. And gratitude. It's everything, especially building a team that's loyal and excited to work with what you're doing.
And I think it was, there's probably multiple articles written about this, but I think it was a Forbes article I was reading recently, although don't quote me on that. I forget where I saw it, but I was reading something briefly that was talking about just in general culture, establishing cultures as a leader. And employees don't tend to go to another company for salary reasons, for comp reasons. They tend to leave and search out other opportunities because they don't feel appreciated. They don't feel valued. And that is more common than, do people leave for comp increases? Of course. But en masse, the dissatisfaction of feeling unappreciated is what typically will light the fire under your talent to look elsewhere.
To start looking. Awesome. So I'd love to just have you tell everybody where they can find out more about you and what you do, how they can get in contact with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone is welcome to email me directly at any time. My email is Hayden, Hayden, at handledbyhayden.co, not .com.co. Our website is handledbyhayden.co. And if you take it a step further, byhayden.co/links, LINKS. It's a quick directory for booking a call with me, downloading our free toolkit, which is an amazing resource. It's the top 20 things you should be delegating that you should not be doing, things your executive assistant can take off your plate. And it includes a interactive opportunity cost calculator that we built. So it will actually help you calculate to the hour what your time is worth and what it's costing you by not having support in place. There are some great shared articles on there, our blog, all of that. So handledbyhayden.co/links, and it's a great directory for a lot of resources.
Awesome. Cool. I really appreciate you coming on here, and I had
it's been a pleasure.
Great time. I had a great time chatting with you. I guess just finally here, if someone had like one takeaway to take away from this conversation, what should it be?
I would say that asking for help as a leader, a business owner, all of the above, entrepreneur, corporate leader, it takes a lot more strength to ask for help than it does to just silently suffer. Being open to being vulnerable takes a lot of strength. To have that support in place, that will actually really give you the lift, the elevation to thrive and really see those changes that you want to see in your life and your business.
Awesome. Love it. Well, thanks again for joining us, Hayden, and everyone out there. We will see you next time.